What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we are here on the Nebraska channel at the Voice of College Football. In this video, we're going to preview the 2022 schedule for Nebraska. Before we get to 2022, let's look back at 2021. Nebraska had one of the toughest schedules in the country last season, and given an easier schedule, given a few plays going their way, it could have been such a different season for Nebraska. 3-9, but they were right there in every single game that they played. So many close losses. I think they broke a record for most one-possession losses ever in the history of college football. It was a crazy season for Nebraska to go 3-9, but they were much better than 3-9. But again, you look at the schedule here. They had to play Oklahoma in the non-conference, obviously a very tough matchup there. And then they played Michigan State on the road. Michigan State wound up being right there near. Actually, they played Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State. So we're talking about three, I should say, top. I can't remember exactly where Michigan State wound up. Top 12 teams or whatever. I mean, they could not have had a tougher draw out of the East last year. Gets a little bit easier this year. Let's look at the schedule. And here it is. Before we go game by game, let's look at who they play outside of the Big Ten West, outside of the division. Then in the non-conference, they'll play North Dakota State. Of course, this is a good FCS team. No cakewalk there, but it is an FCS team. Nebraska, the more talented team. I wouldn't be surprised at all, though, if that is a close game. You have Georgia Southern and then Oklahoma again this year. This time is at home. New coaching staff. A lot of new players there. That's a game that Nebraska can win. I mean, they almost won last year. So, yeah, it's a tough game there in the non-conference, but a winnable game, I think, for Nebraska. Then out of the East, it's a much better draw this year. Yes, they do have to play Michigan, and they play Michigan on the road, so that will be a tough one. But no Ohio State, no Michigan State, no Penn State. They'll play Indiana and Rutgers as their other two games. So maybe the bottom two teams out of the East. So this is a much, much better draw for Nebraska out of the Big Ten East. But still a pretty tough schedule. Let's look at it. They start with Northwestern. That game will be in Ireland. It's a Week 0 game before all the most teams play their Week 1 game. So August 27th, that's going to be a fun one there. Then it's North Dakota State on September the 3rd. Again, that's going to be an interesting game. We'll see what happens in that one. Georgia Southern on September 10th, and then Oklahoma on September 17th. They'll get the last Saturday of September off. That'll be their first bye week. They'll have 2 bye weeks because they play in Week 0. But you look at that schedule there. Again, in the month of September, Northwestern, North Dakota State, Georgia Southern, Oklahoma. They could be 4-0, but they could also be 2-2. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. It's an interesting start to the season, but again, if they can find a way to win some of these close games, they could definitely get off to a 4-0 start before going into October, where it's not that tough. Indiana, then on the road at Rutgers, then on the road at Purdue, and then they'll have a bye week after Purdue. They'll play Illinois on the 29th. So, again, and by the way, Rutgers is on I think a Friday night, so you'll have a road game at Rutgers Friday night. Upset alert, potentially watch for that one. Purdue will be tough on the road, but a manageable month of October. Indiana, Rutgers, Purdue, Illinois. These will be challenging games. They get a bye week between Purdue and Illinois, but very winnable games. So I think for Nebraska, it all comes down to the month of November. As long as they take care of business in these games and they don't lose more than maybe one, you go into the month of November and you've got it all right there in front of you. Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. 2 of those games on the road, Michigan and Iowa. So this is a very tough month of November, but also it's a month of opportunity because you've got maybe the 3 best teams in the division, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Outside of Nebraska, Purdue could be in that conversation as well. But 3 of the top teams you're going to play right there at the end of the season, so they should be in the race at least. And they'll have an opportunity, if they can win those games, to possibly win the Big Ten West. Michigan, of course, going to be a very tough one on the road, kind of thrown in the middle of that. But again, it's all about getting off those first 8 games. Need to get off to a good start. 7-1, maybe even 8-0, or at least 6-2. That's going to give them an opportunity with those final games in the month of November to make a real run at the Big Ten West Championship. So a much easier schedule in 2022 for Nebraska, but a difficult month of November. That's the biggest thing that jumps out to me with this schedule.